I stood in the kitchen, bracing myself against the cool marble countertop, feeling the familiar weight of dread settle heavily in my chest. The kitchen was filled with the scent of roasted chicken and garlic, a tantalizing aroma that normally would have made my stomach growl, but tonight it only turned. My family had gathered for what was supposed to be a simple family dinner, a moment to reconnect after weeks of scattered texts and busy schedules. My mother busied herself with serving salt and pepper shakers, cutting the chicken into perfectly symmetrical pieces and plating them like art. As I watched her, I couldn't help but notice how effortless she made everything look despite the storm brewing beneath the surface. "Sister, are you even going to sit down?" My brother's voice broke through my haze, pulling me back into the moment. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, wearing that infuriating grin that told me he was in on some joke that I was. "Or are you just going to stand there looking all moody? You know we're just trying to enjoy a nice family night." "Yeah, I will. Give me a second," I shot back, forcing my voice to sound casual despite the tension coiling inside me. I slowly placed my hands on the counter and could feel the cool surface grounding me as I took a deep breath. My fingertips brushed against a gleaming knife, its polished surface reflecting the kitchen lights, and for a fleeting second, part of me wished to pick it up, to cut through all the lies and manipulation that had started to suffocate me. The clinking of cutlery on porcelain echoed around the room, mingling with laughter, as my father entered, striding in with his usual authoritative air. He dropped into his seat, an oversized figure that overshadowed me even when he was just sitting down, and his face bore that signature smile that always made me think of authority figures in old movies, confident, assuring, but also a little dismissive beneath. "What's with all the drama? Come on, chime in, we're just having a little fun here," he said, gesturing with a piece of chicken as though it held the power to ease all tensions. I watched my family dig into their plates, the colors of the food speckled across the table like a beautiful mess, vibrant greens of broccoli, the warm yellows of roasted potatoes, and the golden brown of the chicken. It looked perfect, almost too perfect, as if the food itself was an illusion masking the chaos between us. I felt a tightening in my throat, the truth clawing at my insides as I attempted to hold back the tidal wave of emotions that threatened to spill out. "Victoria, are you really not hungry?" My mother asked, her voice soft yet curious. I saw her eyes searching mine, looking for something, maybe a sign that everything would return to normal. I put on a tight smile, the kind that didn't reach my eyes. "I'm fine, Mother, just thinking," I managed, my voice wavering despite my best efforts. My mother's brow furrowed slightly, the concern etched on her face tightening my chest further. I hated that she felt like she had to be the peacekeeper. "Thinking, huh?" My brother chimed in, sarcasm dripping from his voice. "That's even worse than being moody. What are you thinking about how the chicken got burnt last time?" His laughter filled the room, but it felt flat, and I noticed my mother shoot him a quick, uneasy look as if urging him to tread lightly. "You should be grateful we even bothered making dinner for you. Just drop it, will you? You think you're funny," I replied, keeping my tone sharp to mask the fact that his words cut deeper than he realized. "Maybe if you weren't always so annoying I wouldn't mind spending time here." "Annoying, me?" My brother's brows shot up in feigned surprise. "It must run in the family then. Maybe that's why moping around isn't the best look for you." He met my glare with an exaggerated eye roll that made me want to slap him, but my hands shook on the counter as I fought to control my breathing. Before I could retort, my father's voice boomed. "Enough! We're here to enjoy time together, not bicker like children. I do not tolerate this back and forth over a family dinner." He thumped a hand on the table, rattling the dishes and quieting the room instantly. His words hung in the air like a heavy fog, and I felt the heat rising in my cheeks. My stomach twisted with resentment. Everything might seem perfect on the outside, but deep down, I could feel the fissures splitting apart the surface of our family. I couldn't shake the feeling that my brother had no idea how lucky he was to be in my father's good graces, continuously simmering in the gold of favoritism while I was left feeling cast aside. Turning back toward my plate, I picked up my fork, shoving a piece of chicken into my mouth to avoid letting my frustration boil over. I chewed mechanically, focusing instead on the sound of the silverware clinking together, the soft background noise of my family as they exchanged pleasantries. Yet beneath all that, I could feel the undercurrents of the unspoken topic hanging like a dark cloud. "Victoria!" My mother's voice pierced through my thoughts again, pulling my attention back to her. Have you thought any more about what we discussed last week? My pulse quickened at the mention of that conversation. I knew exactly what she meant. The inheritance my grandfather had left behind caused so much tension. The discussion had felt like a game of chess, and I was somehow the pawn, sacrificed for others' gain. About the properties, I asked, my heart racing. You mean, do I want to take on all the responsibility for them, don't you? Because let's be real here, none of you ever reached out to see how I felt. That's not fair, my father interrupted in that commanding tone I disliked so much. You're making it sound like we've ignored you. We simply think it's a lot for you to take on at your age. I mean, you do not have the experience that your brother does. Are you serious? I managed to spit out, my voice rising a notch. He's never had to take it on alone. You've always favored him. Why would this time be any different? I could feel my hands trembling now, the taste of anger surging through me as I locked eyes with my brother, who sat smugly at the end of the table, basking in the approval that had been handed to him all these years. Come on, Victoria, stop with the dramatics, my mother sighed, shaking her head. We're just looking out for you. Looking out for me, I interrupted, my voice cracking with emotion. Looking out for me is not threatening to cut me off if I refuse to be your puppet. You'd rather pick him for everything because he plays your games better than me. I can't keep pretending anymore. Silence gripped the room, the air thick with lingering tension. The clinking ceased as every eye turned toward me, my brother's smug expression twisting into a mask of surprise. He was taken aback, caught off guard by my sudden outburst, and my mother's mouth fell open as if searching for words to pull me back from the edge. Do you really think this is how we wanted tonight to go? My father finally said, a frown forming on his lips. His casual demeanor had flipped into something simmering just below the surface. This is about far more than dinner. It always has been. I shouted back, my voice growing stronger as anger coursed through me. I hate being accused of not caring. You guys are the ones who refuse to see me for who I am. It's always about what makes you look good. My brother laughed, an empty sound that echoed through the tension. Listen to yourself, sister. You're making it sound like you're the victim here. Dad is right. You're being overly dramatic. You must just love playing the martyr role. Enough, my father said, raising his voice again, but my brother just shrugged, more amused than concerned. There was a flicker of realization. I felt my chest tighten as the words left my mouth at that moment. He may have thought he was joking, but that last jab cut deep. Suddenly, I had had enough. I'm done, I said quietly, feeling my face flush with frustration and fury. I can't do this anymore. Standing abruptly, I felt the chair scrape harshly against the floor, cutting through the remaining calm. I'm leaving. No, you're not. My father attempted to intervene, his hand reaching out as if trying to grab hold of me. I could hear the heavy thud of my heart as I took a step back, pushing away from the table before walking toward the door with purpose. What are you going to do? My brother mocked. Run away from your problems? That's a classic move. I paused at the doorway, turning around, and for a brief moment I locked eyes with my mother. I searched her face for understanding, for an ally, but instead I saw disappointment cloud her features. This just isn't fair, I murmured, my voice trembling. Come back and talk to us, she urged softly, but I shook my head, my body rigid as I pushed through the door. I can't stay in a place where I feel so invisible. You've all chosen him over me one too many times. The door slammed behind me, the sound reverberating through the hallway as I stomped outside, my heart pounding in my chest. Fresh air rushed to fill my lungs, and as I looked at the starry sky above, I felt a surge of empowerment igniting inside me, a moment of determination brewing just below the surface. I wouldn't let them claw away my spirit any longer. But even with that flicker of courage, I knew this was just the beginning, and I had no idea what the next move would be. I turned my back on the house, its warm lights dimming as I took a step forward into the chilly night. The air was crisp against my skin, brushing past me with the silence of the encroaching storm. A fight was brewing, one I was ready to face, because deep down I could sense the revelation tightening around the threads of my family. I just had to find out the secrets locked within its walls. The battle may have begun at the dinner table, but I knew there was so much more to uncover. The tension was intoxicating, and my heart raced not just from anger, but from the thrill of what lay ahead. The evening air was dense with anticipation as I stood in the kitchen, the smell of roasted chicken wafting through the open window, mingling with the scent of fresh herbs. It felt like everything was coming together for one of those ideal family dinners, at least on the surface. I watched as my mother meticulously arranged the table, putting each fork and knife in its precise place like it was a military operation. I knew the dinner was for my brother and his new girlfriend, but that did not stop my heart from racing at the thought of what was looming over us. My chest felt tight as I listened to the chatter in the living room, the laughter booming like a taunt. Why did their joy make me feel like a ghost at my own family dinner? I had stood by for so long, feeling like no one saw me, caught in their shadows. What would happen tonight could change everything. "Victoria," my mother called out, her voice piercing through my thoughts. I set the knife down and brushed my hands off on the dish towel. "Come help me with the serving plates." I tried to keep the sigh in, but I could feel it escape anyway. I was always helping, always the good girl, while my brother was the favorite no matter what he did. As I stepped into the dining room, I saw my brother leaning over the couch with his girlfriend, whispering sweet nothings. The way he grinned, eyes sparkling, made my stomach twist. I was happy for him, I truly was. But the favoritism had twisted my insides for years. My father walked into the room, spinning a story about his latest golf game, the sound of his triumphant voice echoing around us. The nostalgia of those moments draped over my shoulders, heavy and suffocating. "Look at Victoria." My father boomed, still caught in his tails. "Always helping out. No wonder we all rely on her. Such a good daughter." The words should have filled me with pride, but I felt hollow instead. I could see my brother roll his eyes when our father picked up his glass and gestured towards me. A toast to family, and to my perfect daughter, the one who never disappoints. His smile was wide, but somehow it felt like my victory was always overshadowed by my brother and his shenanigans. My hands began to shake. "Thank you, Father," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. "Just doing what I can." The bustle of the room continued around me, but I felt apart from it, a shadow, a mere provisioner. The dinner began, and I plopped down on my usual seat beside my brother, across from my mother and father. His girlfriend was seated beside him, her laughter like syrup, smooth and sweet. I could barely focus on what was being served, the beautiful breast of roasted chicken glistening in the warm light. "You should really try the chicken, it's fantastic," my mother chimed, serving my brother with generous portions. But as she turned to me, her hand paused. "Oh, do you want the leg or the breast?" she asked, a hint of hesitation in her voice. "The leg is dark, it will have more flavor." I froze, weighing my options. Should I just take whatever she had ready? "I'll have the breast," I replied, trying to mask my emotions. I could feel my voice cracking, and I wanted to slap my own mouth shut. Would it always be like this? "Victoria, just take the leg, live a little," my brother interjected, snickering. His girlfriend joined in, her laughter ringing in my ears. For a moment, I felt my cheeks go crimson, but I pushed the feeling away. "I appreciate your suggestion, but I really do prefer the breast," I insisted. My voice felt firmer, but inside I was screaming. I grabbed the serving spoon and heaped a generous mound onto my plate. "What was that, Victoria? You do know we have a favorite around here," he teased, nudging my shoulder with his. I swallowed the knot in my throat, ignoring him. Everyone had a favorite, it just never seemed to be me. Midway through the dinner, a dance of frivolous conversations began unfurling. My mother asked my brother and his girlfriend about their weekend plans, and it felt like I was being cut out of the narrative entirely. Instead of joining in, I focused on chewing every bite, hoping the food would somehow fill the deep void inside me. "We're heading to the cabin for a little getaway," my brother boasted, his voice dripping with pride and carefree bliss. "Just the four of us. Party vibes, you know." My breath caught in my throat as I looked over at my sister. "And we won't be taking any other company," he added, and his girlfriend giggled, resting her head on his shoulder, their blissful moment stinging like bees. "Sounds amazing," my mother replied enthusiastically, not even glancing at me. "You two deserve it." I felt a wave of anger flush over me, hot and stinging. "What about me? Don't I deserve to be included?" I wanted to shout it, to throw it out there like a grenade, but instead I just gripped my fork tighter. My father chuckled. "We have to give you your own time, Victoria. The babying needs to stop anyway. This one here is ready to take on the world," he said, pointing at my brother. The reference felt like a smack to my face, the condescension biting into my skin. My hands went cold, and I felt like I might break down right then, right there. Isn't everyone in the family worth taking on the world? Right, my brother laughed, rolling his eyes at our father's words. "I wouldn't worry about her making friends. She'll always have us." The implication hung in the air, thick and choking. Who needed friends when you could support a brother who stole the limelight? Who needed to be cared for when you were just a shadow? I felt tears beginning to prick at the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them back with fierce determination. I would not cry over dinner. The conversation shifted, and then my mother brought up something that made my heart skip a beat. "Speaking of family, you guys remember that old house by the lake?" she asked. My brother immediately perked up, his interest piqued. "Are you talking about the one Grandpa left us? Yeah, I heard they were gonna sell it for $250,000. Suddenly, the tension in the room snapped tighter, my entire being focused on that number. $250,000. I had forgotten all about it. Part of me had always wondered about that house, how it had been a part of my childhood and held memories of lazy summer afternoons. "What are they going to do with that money?" I blurted out, my voice sharper than intended. I could see the eyes of my brother flash with something unyielding. "Probably put some in savings for the family," my father said, shrugging nonchalantly, as if the money belonged to everyone but me. "It would be a shame to just sit on it." I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. I had never sensed the weight of that inheritance before, but suddenly it felt like it had my name on it, a vein pulsing beneath the surface of our family tension. "So, what happens when it is sold? Is that when we can split it?" I asked, glancing over at my brother and his girlfriend. They exchanged a quick look, then my brother scratched the back of his neck, suddenly looking uneasy. "I mean, if it comes to that, but it's not like we all need to fight over it, right? We could just—" "Let it settle," he said, shifting in his seat. "Uh-huh, right," I shot back, not meaning to sound so confrontational. Easier said than done. My heart raced as embarrassment washed over me, but I could not let them see that. "The money should not be a contest," I continued, determined. "It belongs to all of us. We need to talk about it." Silence engulfed the room like thick fog. I looked at my mother, waiting for her response, her silence amplifying. "Why do you care so much, Victoria? You weren't even around that much when Grandpa was ill. You do not need the cash," my brother sneered, a twist of satisfaction in his voice. My chest tightened as emotion swelled inside me like a storm. I could feel the heat in my cheeks, the anger boiling. "That is not fair. I came to visit. I cared," I countered, my voice trembling. "I should not be penalized for living my life. Maybe you should have tried harder," he shot back, crossing his arms like it was a duel. Everyone went silent as we exchanged glares, the room thick with hostility and unresolved tension. The sense of being cut off was suddenly palpable, raw, and I let it sink in. I felt betrayed, but at the same time my mind sparked with determination. If they thought they could dismiss me, belittle me, I would not stand for it anymore. "What about you, huh?" I said, my voice loud and unwavering. "You always act like you're the one in control. What if I went after that house and insisted I get my share? You think you'll just walk all over me?" The silence felt suffocating, and for a moment it was just the sound of our heartbeat echoing in our ears. My mother finally broke the silence, her eyes wide like she was seeing what I'd become for the first time. "Enough! This isn't the time or place," she said, her voice trembling slightly as I stood firm, refusing to back down. My brother laughed, a harsh laugh that felt mocking, echoing through me. "What a joke! You won't dare. If you push this, you might just find out how alone you'll be," he said, leaning forward, his voice lowering like a warning. The air felt thick, and suddenly I was aware of how small I felt in the eyes of my family. What if he was right? What if I really was alone? But then, an ember of empowerment flickered within me, pushing back against the doubts that clung like shadows. I could not let them reduce me to nothing. "I will not back down," I declared, firmness creeping into my voice. "Things are changing, starting tonight." Just as I finished my sentence, my grandmother's old clock chimed in the distance, its resonating notes reminding us that time was still ticking. It disrupted the thick air, but the confidence I had summoned felt shaky yet electric. The door slammed suddenly, echoing through the house, catching us all off guard. "What was that?" my mother exclaimed, her voice a mix of worry and confusion, as my heart raced with uncertainty, tension crackling in the air. A chill ran down my spine as my brother's eyes narrowed in suspicion. "I think it's time I go check that out. We cannot have someone lurking around here. Just stay put," he demanded, standing up abruptly. I could not shake the feeling that whatever was out there might reflect the boiling feud brewing inside our house. What if the next revelation shattered everything? He stepped out, leaving me teetering on the edge of unfolding conflict, stuck between longing and anger. Moments passed slowly, and I could feel my pulse drum in my ears as I stared into nothingness. It felt like the calm before the storm, shading us all in unexpected shadows. This was just the beginning. Something told me tonight would not end quietly, and I was desperate to see what storm would follow next. The tension hung heavy in the air, thick and palpable. My grandmother's clock echoed again, and I could not shake the feeling that everything was about to shift. What truth waited just beyond that door? I breathed in, ready for whatever storm awaited us next. I felt the tension in the air as I walked into the living room, the familiar scent of my mother's slow-cooked pot roast lingering like a ghost of good times long gone. I stood still for a moment, taking in the scene. My father hunched over the dining table, sorting through a pile of bills while my brother played a video game on the big screen. His laughter rang out, so out of place amidst the thick cloud of family turmoil. My sister was on her phone, scrolling, her face lighting up with the glow from the screen while she sat nestled in her own world, blissfully unaware, or perhaps deliberately ignoring, the storm brewing around us. I could feel the weight of the recent events pressing down on me. It felt like I was walking through a fog of betrayal and resentment. How could they? I thought as anger bubbled inside me like a cauldron ready to boil over. The thought of the inheritance reading flashed in my mind. $250,000 just gone. The attorney's words echoed painfully, a reminder of my father's decision to cut me off, one swift, brutal gesture over a petty argument. I clenched my fists, trying to fight back the tears that were threatening to spill. "Dinner is ready," my mother called out, her voice bright and cheerful, trying to mask the growing tension. I could see her effort to hold our family together, how she always pretended everything was fine. But I wasn't playing her game anymore. The smiling mask was wearing thin, and I knew it. "Great, Mom." I forced a smile, the heaviness still weighing down my spirits. My brother, glancing up at me with eyes full of excitement, called out, "Victoria, come see. I just hit level 20. "Good for you," I replied, trying to sound enthusiastic, but all I could think about was that level I wasn't allowed to play anymore. I took my seat at the table, my heart racing. The charcuterie platter looked fancy, with sliced meats and cheeses neatly arranged like it was for a holiday celebration rather than a family dinner that felt like a battlefield. The silence grew thicker as the food disappeared too quickly, but the tension had a way of lingering far longer than the air should have allowed. "Can you pass the potatoes?" my sister asked, her voice sweet but demanding, a subtle reminder of how her favor had always rested more lightly than mine. I did as she asked without a word, my hands shaking slightly as I placed the warm bowl in front of her. It was always like that with her, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I glanced sideways to catch my mother staring at my father, silently communicating all the things she wouldn't dare say out loud. It was the kind of look that said, "You did this." "So," my father began, his voice too jovial for the mood, "how about some good news? We had a little chat with the neighbor today." He huffed, shoving the bills aside as if they meant nothing. "He mentioned he might sell his property soon, which presents an opportunity for us." I barely stifled a scoff, my heart pounding in my ears. "An opportunity," I muttered under my breath, imagining the hole I had fallen into. "Opportunity," I blurted out, my frustration bubbling over. "Is that what you call it when you just cut me out of everything? An opportunity?" "Victoria, now is not the time," my mother interjected, her voice sharp, an attempt to snuff out the flames before they spread. "Not the time." I could feel my cheeks burning as I fought against the knot forming in my throat. "You didn't think it was the right time when you decided to hand everything over to my brother and sister, just like that." "Things change," my father barked, his voice booming, echoing in the suddenly quiet room. The laughter faded, the ambience shifted into something heavy and foreboding. I could feel everyone watching me, an audience to my humiliation. "Things change," I echoed mockingly, like favoritism. I felt the heat rise in my chest, fueled by my need to expose the truth. "You chose them over me, didn't you?" "Stop it, just stop," my sister added, her voice tremulous but edged with defensiveness. "This isn't about you, it's our family, and we're trying to figure things out." I took a calming breath, my heart racing, my fingers twitching on the edge of the table. "So you think I am just going to sit back and accept this? Like I deserve to be marginalized? You think I am nothing?" A silence fell, thick and suffocating. My brother turned down his game, the sudden drop in noise amplifying the atmosphere of contention. "Maybe you should reflect a bit on why you are where you are," my father replied coldly, his eyes narrowing. Each word felt like a slap across my face, promising that nothing would ever change. The betrayal ran deep. The seed they had planted sprouted thick vines, choking our family ties. "I have reflected, father," I shot back, tears stinging the corners of my eyes. "And what I see is unfair treatment." You and Mother talk about us as if we were mere investments, not children. I could hear my voice cracking, the raw emotion spilling out like a dam burst. You need to fix your life, my father replied matter-of-factly, dismissing my pain with a wave of his hand. I don't want to hear it. You need to make better choices. Each word felt colder, more detached than the last. Better choices? Is that what you call cutting your daughter off, refusing to even give me a chance to talk it through? I did not cut you off, he shot back, but even he sounded uncertain, shifting in his seat like he was beginning to realize how hollow his words were. I just feel like you needed to learn a lesson. Learn a lesson. I stared at my family, my heart sinking. So it's a lesson to not trust any of you, a lesson to feel like less, a lesson to be alone. I was almost shouting now, my hands trembling as I fought to keep my composure, but anger won. Why can't you see that talking about money right now is not productive? My brother interjected, disdain evident in his tone. I'm trying to have a good time, and the last thing I need is you ruining this. The last thing you need. I shook my head in disbelief. You mean the last thing you want to hear is reality? That's rich coming from you. Victoria, please, my mother pleaded, her eyes wide and earnest. You need to understand that we love you, but there are times when we have to put the family first. Make choices that are best for all of us. Best for all of us. The words felt like salt in my wounds. This isn't about what's best for all of us. It's about you choosing your favorites, and I am not one of them. There you go again, making this all about you, my sister huffed, eyes rolling. You only see your own anger. You don't think about how we feel, how much pressure is on us. Pressure. I turned to her, disbelief washing over me. What about the pressure I feel every day of my life? Trying to prove that I am worth something to you, proving that I can do something right. Just drop it, Victoria, my brother warned, finally standing up, the chair scraping against the floor. Anger radiated off him, and for the first time I felt the true weight of his disdain, no longer holding anything back. You're making this miserable for everyone. Everyone? You mean for you? I felt like I was running out of weight to carry. My heart fell heavy in my chest, a storm raging inside me as I realized I had become a burden in everyone's eyes. This isn't about being a burden. I raised my voice, my frustration bubbling over like lava about to erupt. It is about standing up for what is right. It's about being family. What is family to you? My father's voice cut in, a challenge laced with authority. Family is knowing when to fall in line, when to support one another. Those words pierced through me like daggers, the realization hitting like a freight train. Through clenched teeth, I stared down the table at them all, the most painful truth dawning upon me. These were not people who supported me. These were people who expected me to submit. Submit, I whispered, my voice low. You think I will just let you walk over me forever? What else do you want us to say, Victoria? My mother asked, exasperated, her patience wearing thin. This is our way of trying to help. You ought to understand that. Suddenly, I felt a sense of determination rising within me, the pain morphing into a fire, igniting every inch of my being. You think this is helping? Cutting me off, isolating me? Do you think I will just forget it? Before anyone could reply, I stood up, my heart pounding against my ribs as I looked each of them in the eyes, seeing them for what they truly were. You think that I will stay stuck in this miserable notion of family, where I am the black sheep and you get everything? I will show you who I can be. The room fell silent. My heart raced as realization washed over me like ice-cold water. I was no longer their victim. I would fight for my place, my worth. I slammed my hands on the table, watching as they all looked at me, startled, the anger, fear, and desperation coiling at the corners of their faces. I will make this right, even if it means standing alone. The words spilled from my lips, defiance lighting every part of me. I turned, storming out of the living room, leaving the silence behind me thick with disbelief. As I reached the front door, I paused, the unmade, unfinished conversations echoing behind me. I could still hear them discussing what had just happened, arguments and accusations crackling like static electricity. But I wasn't ready to face them yet. I needed to breathe, to think, and to store my energy for my next move. The air outside was crisp and real, the coolness sharpening my senses. I glanced back at the house, a mix of anger and determination flowing through me. I would never be cut off again. I would find a way to reclaim my worth, my power, and when I returned, everything would change. But first, I needed a plan. I clenched my fists, knowing I had crossed a line tonight. The family would erupt, and unbeknownst to them, it was just the beginning. I inhaled deeply, letting the chill steal my breath, my heart racing with a newfound sense of empowerment. A whirlwind of vengeance had begun, and I was ready for war. I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill that request. I sat in the dimly lit living room, the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders as I stared at the family portrait hanging on the wall. All of us grinning foolishly like we had no worries, but I knew better now. Behind those smiles lay a web of secrets, betrayed trusts, and a looming fallout that would cut deeper than any sword. The air was thick with tension as my parents and sister sat across from me, the remnants of our last argument still lingering like an unwelcome ghost. My mother's eyes flickered with that familiar dismissive glint, the kind that always made me feel small and unjustly punished. Clenching my fists and trying to steady my racing heart, I knew tonight was the night everything would come crashing down. "You need to stop acting like a child, Victoria," my mother said with that maddening calmness, leaning back in her chair as if to physically distance herself from my frustration. "This is not about you wanting to feel included in the family business." I could feel my face flush, the words igniting a fire in my chest. "I'm not acting like a child. You and Father chose my sister over me without even asking me what I wanted." I stood up, hands shaking at my sides. The room felt suffocating, painted walls closing in like a prison cell. "This inheritance, I deserve a share too." My father, his brow furrowing deeper than ever, spoke next. "You cannot just demand what isn't yours. Your sister is the one who has worked hard for the business. You've had your chances." His voice was gruff, a silent authority that dared me to challenge him. I could see the disappointment etched on his face, but what disappointed me more was how easily he dismissed my pain. "Working hard at your expense, the way you threw me out as if I were just some burden you wanted to get rid of." I felt my heart race aggressively against my ribcage. I was tired of being overlooked, tired of being the burden. My eyes darted towards my sister, who sat there, a smug smile playing across her lips, clearly relishing this moment. "You just don't get it, do you?" She chimed in, her tone laced with condescension. "This is a responsibility, not some fun little adventure. I took over what you clearly didn't want." She leaned back, as if the weight of the world was hers alone to carry. "It wasn't my choice. You and Mother kept me out while I was just struggling to find my own path." My voice cracked, and I fought against tears welling up in my eyes. How had things come to this? A family I once loved now felt like bitter enemies. "Stop acting so entitled, Victoria," my mother added, her voice dripping with that classic superiority that twisted my insides. "You will not take advantage of this family's generosity anymore. You never appreciated it in the first place." A cold wave of disbelief swept through me. "Generosity? You mean favoritism. It is not generous to cut me off while throwing wealth at my sister." I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, a mixture of rage and hurt. The lavish lifestyle they afforded her, elegant clothes, extravagant parties, the luxury car parked outside, was everything I had never been given. It felt like a glaring spotlight on my inadequacies, making me tremble further in my determination. My sister let out a mocking laugh, swinging her golden hair over her shoulder. "Maybe if you had just tried harder, you wouldn't be in this position. You have to earn it just like I did." Bitterness flooded my system, and I clenched my jaw. "I shouldn't have to earn love or recognition from my own family. You think I asked to be pushed aside." It was a painful truth, and I was opened up like a wound, raw and exposed. "You could have tried 1,000 times harder, dear," my mother said, her voice soothing in that patronizing way that made me seethe. "But you just didn't want to. You needed to grow up before demanding what isn't yours." "I grew up like you wanted me to. I stayed in the shadows because you all chose her." I pointed at my sister, desperation choking my voice. I had always felt the pressure of being invisible, as if my very existence was a distraction in their eyes. I took a deep breath, a coolness creeping in as anger swirled dangerously inside me with every spoken word. "You think I didn't care? I did everything right and still ended up with nothing." My father's expression steeled as he leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Remember what I told you about instant gratification. If you keep this selfishness up, you will realize you don't fit in this family that well." The way he spoke, as if I was a child in need of correction, sent a shiver down my spine. "I fit just fine, Dad. It is you who can't see me." My voice broke, but I pressed forward with unyielding tenacity. "What I need is understanding, not this wall of silence you've built around me." My sister rolled her eyes, clearly entertained by my desperation. "Understanding? You pushed everyone away." She looked at me like I was some kind of joke, shaking her head. "If you weren't such a disappointment, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation." The words sliced through me, sharper than glass. Just then, my grandmother walked into the room, the light from the hallway casting a warm glow around her. She had always been the anchor in this stormy sea, the one who seemed to understand the deep rifts in our family. Her eyes scanned the room, a flicker of concern painting her features. "What on earth is happening in here?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly from age but filled with undeniable strength. "It sounds like World War III is happening. Nothing we can't handle, Mother," my father assured her, waving one hand dismissively. "He is right," my sister chimed in. "Victoria just doesn't know how to act in social settings like always." I felt my chest tighten, the pain swelling. "How many times have I told you to treat your sister right, dear?" My grandmother chided, her gaze now firmly on my sister. "You all need to remember that family means more than fortune or business. It means respect and love. Now, why don't we all sit?" "Respect, love," I interrupted, my heart pounding fiercely. "You taught us nothing of the sort, that's the problem. This whole family is built on loneliness, and I refuse to be quiet anymore." The moment those words left my lips, the silence that followed felt heavier than 1,000 bricks. "Victoria." My mother's voice wavered for the first time, the facade of her unwavering control cracking just slightly. "Don't, Mother. I can't hear your lies anymore. I want to breathe. I want to matter." The room was frozen, everyone's eyes on me, and I could feel my pulse racing, a beat against my ribs. "Do you think I'm just going to sit here and let you all make decisions for my life?" I stepped back, feeling empowered by the realization that maybe this was my moment, the first step in finding the justice I so desperately craved. My father's jaw clenched, and I could see anger stirring in his eyes. "You're being dramatic, Victoria. You are overreacting like your usual self. We're trying to guide you, not ruin you." "Guiding me by ignoring my truth, by pretending I don't exist." I rubbed my temples, growing frustrated. "Honestly, I'm sick of it. You want to talk to me about what is fair? You've cut me off completely while she gets everything. How is that right?" At that moment, my sister stood up, her expression shifting in shock as if she finally realized the depth of my anguish. "I never asked for everything, Victoria. I just—" "Stop acting like the martyr," I snapped back, cutting her off. "This isn't about you and your undeserved glory." I could see her jaw tighten defensively. I had finally found the words to disarm her carefully constructed persona, even momentarily. "Well, clearly I was chosen for the business. I am the one who can actually manage it," she said, crossing her arms defiantly. "Chosen?" My voice shook with disbelief as I took a small step forward. "You mean favored. You know their love was never equally shared. You just got lucky." The truth hung heavy in the air, and for a split second I saw fear flicker in her eyes. "Enough!" My father stood abruptly, suddenly towering over us all. The air crackled with tension, the words hanging like a storm waiting to break. "This conversation is over. You will not insult your sister in this house." But I could feel it, the surge of defiance that swept through me like a raging river. "You want to cut me off so badly? Fine." I could sense the determination building in me. "You cut me off once, I can do it again. The question is, will you drive me out of this family completely before I leave on my own terms?" As the heaviness seeped into every corner of the room, silence engulfed us, tension coiling tighter and tighter. I could feel my heart pounding wildly in my chest. Facing them was exhilarating, yet terrifying. My hands were clammy, but I was no longer ashamed. In that moment, I understood. This was just the beginning. "What does that mean?" My sister's voice quivered as she resisted the knot in her throat, but I could sense fear lurking beneath her bravado. I took a deep breath, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "It means I will no longer let my life be defined by your choices." I turned on my heel and strode toward the door. Enough is enough. As I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoed through the quiet night, reverberating back at me like a proclamation. I felt free yet still tethered to the chaos I left behind, unresolved feelings thick in the air. It was an ending that felt like a beginning. The night was cold and sharp, but it didn't matter. I could feel the spark flickering inside me as I stepped into the darkness. Suddenly, everything I had been through fell away, weightless now as I resolved to take back my power. I knew the road ahead would not be easy, but nothing would stop me from finally rewriting my story. I could not wait to discover what came next.